All right, so I guess I'll start. I am going to talk about Treasuredao today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first go over the first 6 points of this content. Rick, can you mute, by the way?
Oh, you can hear me?
First 6 points, yeah, I can. First 6 points of the contents, and then from there, us four Gameonomics boys will have a chat about it, and maybe some of the opinions based on the information that I've given, and maybe some just some feedback and opinion, and then I'll give my own conclusion. So why we do that is because obviously I don't want my opinion to sway any of the other guys. I just want to give as neutral information based on what I've gathered personally, and then the guys can go from there and make their own sort of conclusions about the game. So, all right, let's get started. So, Treasuredao, this is a project that has been hyped for a while. It's seen as a pretty unique and I guess you could call it revolutionary. That's what people say, a revolutionary Web3 game or platform. So I decided to have a look at it. So what is Treasure, right? So Treasure is a game console ecosystem, and it links communities and games. It's a decentralized platform. It's on Web3, and it's got 13 games. 9 of them are actually working at the moment on their main website, but they have 13 in the works. And they've got NFTs and also everything that links and their native token magic, which links everything together. So they call themselves the decentralized Nintendo, as you can see from this photo of their website. And they aim to facilitate game publishing for the developers of games, connect game communities through common ecosystems like Nintendo. So that's the reason why they've got the Nintendo title, or they call themselves Nintendo. So as you can see from here, they focus on 3 things. So games, community, infrastructure. So the games are built from the ground up. They're connected by magic, as I said. The community is a composite of smaller communities, which are basically the individual games that I'm talking about, those 13 individual games, and they come together through magic as well. And then finally, infrastructure, which is basically the Web3 technology, the fact that they're all on the same platform, Treasure, through Arbitrum, which is a layer 2 in the Ethereum network, and once again connected by a common token, right? A common linking token, which is magic, right? So essentially, magic is designed to be a cross metaverse currency that will act as a source of value across all of the games and projects on Treasure. And yeah, this is one of their big points of advantage, because unlike Nintendo, they've got something within their ecosystem that actually has a monetary value that can be essentially cross-functional on all of their games. So you can switch assets quite easily. You can access a marketplace quite easily. Let's say I want to move from one of their games to the other, but I don't have enough economic resources. I can sell one economic resource in one game and move it to the other. So that's the advantage of that. I'll move on to the second part, which is development. So Treasure doesn't have a roadmap, but it's has regular updates in the community through Discord announcements. I've had a look at a few of them. And they have a bunch of announcements. Most recently, one of their biggest announcements has been that they've got their own magic swap. So similar to Sushi Swap and Uniswap, they're actually working on their own AMM for their internal currencies. And I see that it's not fully released yet, but I see that as another way to link all of the games together and make it easy to just go to Treasure as a one-stop Nintendo shop. So they are also a globally, there's 30 team members who are anonymous. They are a globally distributed team of developers, product managers, artists, brand builders, marketers, economists, and gamers. And one of their co-founders works for another project on Cosmos, which is Osmosis, which is an AMM. So there's a bit of experience with AMMs in DeFi there.
You might want to explain what an AMM is.
Automatic market maker. So essentially what that means is it is somewhere where you can go, an AMM is somewhere you can go and swap tokens easily. It has the liquidity in there. It has enough money in there for you to swap it instantly. And you're able to, let me give you an example. I have Magic, and a better example is this. I have Ethereum, right? I've gone on to Treasure and I want Magic. Where do I go? I have to go to an AMM to swap my Ethereum into Magic. That's essentially what it is. It's a simplified version, but that's what it is. So, yeah. Overall, there isn't much information about the team, and also the roadmap as well. Obviously, there isn't one, which is a little bit of a warning sign that we've looked at in the past. In saying that, they do have a lot of announcements, and they have been developing, and you can see that by the number of games that they've got on their platform. It's grown from 2 or 3 games to 13, and they started in 2021.
Okay.
Yep.
So they are freestyling at this point.
They're freestyling.
Okay. So actually, because I had to go AFK a bit, so this is like a game publishing platform mainly, or are they designing the games?
So they don't design most of their games. I believe they have one game which they've got design for, but most of their other games are external.
Okay, so essentially, okay. So they're publishing like some other developer teams' games on their platform.
Correct, and I couldn't find much information on this, but I just assume that from the fact that they have most of the games, in fact, all of the games have separate Discords, right? And I believe the only game that's confirmed to be built by Treasure itself from the ground up is Bridgeworld, which is their flagship game, their premier game on the site.
Okay, so is this kind of like something like Gala?
Yeah, I was just about to say something like Gala games, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. And the reason why they say Nintendo is because they want to help with publishing the game, getting the game out to the public, supporting the funding of the game, so bootstrapping of funds, stuff like that. I think that's where the whole Nintendo aspect comes from. In terms of the actual games that they create, they're not very similar to Nintendo in that sense.
Okay, so they're just basically like, I mean, their direct competitor would be Gala Games. Gala Games is obviously doing something very similar. I would say Gala Games is a lot more established than Treasure. So that is interesting. I think you can also kind of compare them to something like Immutable X.
Steam even?
Yeah, I mean,
more
Steam,
mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for a mainstream one, we could go Steam. And also the other platform, which is just Engine. Engine's another good one that we can compare this to. So for those of you who are watching who probably know those ones, remember, it's probably the way I like to review projects is comparing to Web 2. So perhaps we can compare to Steam, Epic Games. What value does it add using, blockchain? And also what are the direct competitors in the Web3 space. So Gala Games, Engine, and Immutable X would probably be the first competitors that would come to my mind.
Yeah, so that just a reminder, that's based off of this description. Yeah, and that's going to be the reason why I say that. It's going to be important later on when I go through some of the detailed stuff. Why that I'm making that statement. So it's based on this information that we have on what they want to do essentially. Okay, let's move on to game quality. Okay. So in this section, what I wanted to do was I wanted to go through all 9 of their games. Remember, there's 13 total games, but 9 that you can actually access. And I wanted to go through each one, and I wanted to see what my experience would be like. So that's what I'm going to judge game quality by. And as I said, it's based off of my experience. And also I got Ricky Skuz to try a few things out as well, just to double check that my computer was
it was not because of your PC.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start. So this is also in order of the order that is on the website, from 1 all the way down to 9. So the first game was Beacon. First things first, I couldn't access the game. After logging in and connecting wallet and having all the necessary requirements, the game would crash at the title page, and I would need to reconnect my wallet every time. Right? It happened for a few times. I spent a few minutes, but I gave up. And I moved on to the next game because obviously there's 9 games. I don't want to spend more than 10 minutes trying to even get past the title page. If it's that hard to get past the title page, I don't want to play it. Yeah. And I got Ricky. This is an example where I got Ricky to play it as well, and he had the same issue. right? Now, when it comes to this sort of situation, it's unfortunate because I've heard the Beacon is actually one of the few games out of the 9 that are actually quite popular. But in saying that, as I said, as a person from the outside coming in, if it's happening to me, it's happening to Skuz, I'm not going to be the first. We're not going to be the first people that this happens.
So the same, like the most popular, but at the same time, it kept crashing for you and Ricky.
Correct. Which is obviously not a good thing. But anyway, moving on to Kuro Beast. I would say this one would be the game that I enjoyed the most, even though it's very brief. Description of it. And the reason why I've got a brief description of it is because it's a very, very short demo. I think it took me 2 minutes to finish this demo. I connected my wallet. I joined their Discord, which were requirements to play. So I did everything that they told me to do, and I could successfully play the demo. And it reminded me of playing Pokemon on the Game Boy. It was almost identical to the mechanics and the quality, the gameplay of Pokemon on an actual Game Boy. So it reminded me of that. As I said, it was a 2-minute demo, very, very short. And then that full game has not been released. So yeah, essentially that's all I could play. And as I said, this was probably the game that I enjoyed playing the most. But once again, for 2 minutes, I had to move on because I couldn't. It's not a game that you can continuously play 2 minutes. It was just the same demo, same storyline for 2 minutes. So yeah, I'll move on to the next one, Bitmates. You needed a Bitmate to play. So the cheapest one was 0.2 ETH. Obviously, I'm going to move on straight away from that. That's just too much of a requirement. 0.2 ETH to play a game. I think for me, I would be willing to invest 0.2 ETH because I do have ETH. I'm willing to invest it if there's also a liquid market. And unfortunately, with all of these games, there is not really a liquid market. You can make an argument that maybe Bridge World, because it's their biggest game, has a liquid market. But if you go on to Treasuredao and you go to their marketplace, there's not a whole lot of liquidity. So if I'm going to invest 0.2 ETH, what happens if I don't like the game, right? What happens? Can I get a refund?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess the only argument there is like you invest like 0.2 ETH, whatever, buy one of those characters, you get to play, and then like you're like, okay, whatever, I had my fun, and you can then like resell it, and you get like your funds back.
Another thing I'd like to note about these as well is there's barely any content about some of these games. When you go on YouTube and you type in some of the games, there's no one making content. There's no one making gameplay. There's no one really making guides on the game itself, right? So yeah, I'm going to move on. Tales of Illyria needed 50 USDC valued hero to do any content. So you can access the game, you can look at the game. I would describe this game as a economic strategy game, which is common amongst a few of these games actually. And it's about inputting money through USDC, ELM, which is their in-game currency, building, upgrading hero characters, send them out on quests, upgrading and crafting things. Unfortunately, there was a few bits of content that I could have done, but I need to input 50 USDC as a hero. And with these heroes, they're even less liquid than the other one. So 50 USDC is not a whole lot of money in the crypto space, right? I understand that. But in terms of the gaming space, and we are we focus on games right here and playing games and seeing the game experience, and paying 50 USDC, that's nearly half of a AAA rated game experience, right? And when I looked at the content that was available to me and the content that the game had inside of in terms of mechanics, 50 USD was not worth me even trying the game. I'm not even going to attempt to try the game. I know that sounds a little bit negative, sense, right? But once again, I'm just going through my basic experiences of the game. So in terms of graphics and interfaces, they looked really, really basic and reminded me of 2005 style miniclip game. It didn't really give me any excitement. And that's another reason why I wouldn't sink 50 USDC into this, because if I can play a game for free and have the same sort of experience without the monetary expenditure, why would I ever spend 50 USDC? And mind you, this is how to get started in the game, 50 USDC. You have to invest significantly more, higher amount of money to actually get deeper into the mechanics and the gameplay. So I'm going to move on from that. That was my
that's what I
experience.
don't like about this kind of like model of games where
Mhm.
it's like, oh yeah, look, like we're gonna demand like so much liquidity, like we're gonna create so much demand, we're gonna like, yeah, like look, we're making money here, we're making money here, like charging people here, like of course we're gonna make a lot of money. But like who is actually gonna engage with that model? Like they're thinking all
Mhm.
about all of these ways to get money from the user, but like what user is gonna like actually do this? I think that's this model of game, I kind of like see it in crypto gaming quite a bit. You kind of see it from time to time, where I think the developers are just like delusional in terms of like what kind of money are people willing to spend on even trying your game. So they're not even getting that much value, but then like engaging, you will need this token, you need to buy the token to do this, and like there's gonna be so much demand, so buy the token. But I mean, I think this is delusional. Nobody will buy your shit token to play your shit game.
Yeah, and look, I agree with you. And once again, for the viewers, this is our opinion on this. It's not this is our opinion on this. I think this conversation is going to be more interesting when I get to my conclusion as well, because I do have a few thoughts based on some of my interactions, because I did actually go into the Discord of a few of these games and have discussions, and so I had some interesting responses from some of the guys. But we'll leave that for now.
Just on the NFT and the I have a slightly different opinion on like NFTs, like having to buy an NFT to play a game. I think it's okay at the $50 mark. I think it's okay. I mean, the way I see it is, maybe to be fair, like even to this day, when you go on Steam, for example, I just bought Sons of the Forest, a new survival game. I paid around $50. I mean, it's not 50 USDC, but it's probably like 35 USDC. But regardless, around that price range, I think it's fine. If that gives you access to the game, it's kind of like me paying to have access to the game, and it'd be like old business models in gaming, which is, you buy a disc, you pay $50, you get to play the game. I think the problem is not so much that, it's more so first of all, how deep does the economy go in terms of play to earn, I guess? And the second question is the game actually built and ready to go? So the first point would be if the NFT then requires you to, like here I'm having a look, it says Tales of Illyria, Dawn Heroes, you have a Berserker. I'm assuming that's a class. That's the class that you get to play with 50 USD. That's all good. But then if I need to buy a battle axe for like $3, and then I need to buy boots for an extra $2, and then it just keeps going on and on and on, I think that's where I would draw the line and go, that's too much. My second point is the game actually playable? Is buying the character actually valuable to me? I mean, it looks like all the classes are going to be the same price, which is fair, which seems reasonable. But if we have scenarios where, one like a berserker is $50 and maybe a spiritualist is like $300, and now there's a bit of pay to win that occurs, I think that becomes a problem. So at face value, don't get me wrong, I haven't looked at the game, and from what RDZ's talking about, seems like it is an issue. Then, the game, if the game is shit, then the game is shit. Like, you paid $50 for a shit game. It is what it is. So that's kind of how I view the whole NFT buying aspect.
And I agree with that. I mean, we pay $50 all the time for games, right? The difference is that there's a lot of content for that $50. Now, when I look at Tales of Illyria, $50 is not where you start. Sorry, $50 is where you start. It's not where you just pay and then continue, right? It's just a starting point. And for me, when I see something like that, I'm immediately off put, especially if there's actually quite a few features within the game, but it all says you need a hero at minimum. right? And then you need ELM, right, to collect your loot. And then you need, as you said, Rick, a battle axe, or you need an area, right? You need like a land piece or whatever it may be. And I think that's the issue with this, especially when you mix it with basic mini clip style gaming and interfaces. And you know what? Tales of Illyria, actually the interface was quite good, right? It's quite smooth. Everything worked. When I get to some of the other games, they don't even work, and they want $50. They want $100. Their interfaces don't work, right? Some of their features are even closed, right? Closed for development. But yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Battlefly, couldn't get into the game because it was password locked. Looked for a few minutes to try to figure it out, but there was no info, so I decided not to play it. Right now, some of the viewers might think I'm being a bit harsh here, and I should have maybe gone into their Discord, turned into their Twitter. But if you are claiming to be Nintendo and you've got a play button there, why can't I access the game? Right? Why do I need password access? Why then is it hard for me to find password access? Where's the help guides? So for me, I'm actually an educated gamer. I've gamed for over 15 years, and I couldn't manage to play this game. So if it's that easy to play, then there's obviously something wrong. I moved on very quickly from this. I didn't even look at it. Smallverse, there's actually quite a big NFT marketplace, and I've heard of Smalls, the NFTs before, but I looked around and tried for a few minutes, but once again gave up because there's no real easy way to access the game. I don't even think there was a game for this. I think they released NFTs, and I think the game is in production. But once again, why do you have your game on here with the play button without a game? It's really frustrating as a gamer. But yeah, okay, we'll move on. Finally, a game that actually has some mechanics and that we can play. It's Bridge World. So I needed Magic to play. A lot of links. And just once again for the viewers, Bridge World is the original game from Treasuredao. It's their flagship game, and it's how you actually get Magic in the first place, and how you stake your Magic and grow your Magic. Right. This is really the Magic hub, right? And once again, Magic is the token of Treasuredao. So a lot of links to get Magic, but they don't work. So links to guides on how to play the game don't work. Could be a browser issue, but I use Chrome with no ad blocker, so I don't think there's an excuse for it not working. I actually bridged some ETH over to Arbitrum to play the game because I was willing to spend some money here, given that this is the flagship game and this is really what started the Treasure hype. And I would really expect it to be as easy as possible to get Magic, especially through the game. So when I'm accessing the game, I should be able to click a link and get straight into a market maker or a exchange where I can convert Magic. That's ideal. Now I will give them a bit of slack for this because this is still in development, and it's really targeted at Web3 natives. So as a Web3 native, I know how to convert my ETH to Magic. But as I said, I was looking at this from the Treasuredao website and clicking that play button that they have right next to the game. So that was my perspective when I was playing these games. To start the game, you need to pay 10 Magic. Which is $18 at current prices, and mint a recruit, which is the starting character. You can then obtain more characters, which are legions, to quest and get a chance to earn items, which are treasures. Right? You can use these items that you get in the forge to make or swap items. And then the big part of this game is harvesting Magic. That's essentially the point of the game, is to harvest Magic and send out your characters on missions. That's the point of the game. So this requires people coming together in guilds or groups, stake certain items, such as extractors, which are craftable, and deposit them into harvesters to extract more Magic through boosters, and also sabotage other enemy harvesters, which are like any other enemy guilds. So to simplify what I just said there, it's basically a staking system, right? And what they're doing is they're gamifying the staking system in DeFi. Right. So instead of you clicking a button to say stake, you have to get some some items, some nice NFTs called extractors, and you might get them from going on quests and sending out your heroes, which you mint, and then they bring back these extractors and they bring back other items as well, which you can craft to essentially boost your magic staking. That's my understanding.
You're like
right?
APR, like your return in the staking pool.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So you boost your APR and you do it through groups, right? You do it through clans, you do it through groups, and you can also sabotage other enemy harvesters. So there's a bit of, I guess, game theory involved in this. There's a bit of capitalism involved in this, which makes sense.
Can you get negative APR?
I don't know. Now the DeFi side of this is something that I didn't really spend too much time in, because once again, we are not a DeFi company here. We are a gaming company. So I wanted to look at the game experience more than the DeFi experience. But obviously in this particular game, there is a lot of DeFi. So I did have a little bit of a look into DeFi, but yeah, I don't know.
So basically it sounds like Clash of Clans, but maybe a bit more in a primitive sense.
It's text Clash of Clans,
okay.
Economy builders or economy strategy games in text, right? They do have some interfaces where you get some pictures and NFT visuals, but it's essentially in text. When you send out your character, you don't physically send him out or physically go on a quest. He goes out for 8 hours and then he comes back and then you have to click the button. So that's the whole DeFi component of it. That's why I said it's gamifying DeFi. Right?
Is it a bit of a stretch to compare it to, say, something like Sid Meier's Civilization, or is that like?
I think it is a stretch, but it's in the same cloth. It's built in the same cloth of being a strategy game.
Because I think it's pretty interesting. I didn't realize that you can attack other people's effectively harvesting capabilities, which is pretty interesting because that makes it a bit more. I think that makes it a little bit more fun. I think that does now probably put you into, like, I don't know if it'll start to move into like a zero-sum game. Whereas if I attack the other person, do I get their resources and do they lose? Like, for me to gain, does someone have to lose out? I don't know if you've went that deep, because that'll be an interesting part of the strategy. But I do think having PvP makes this project a little bit. It turns it from, being a 2-dimensional game to a 3-dimensional game, because I do quite like. I think a lot of people do like PvP. I think a lot of people are attracted to particularly online games because of PvP. So that'll be, if you could maybe explain a little bit more on that, if you have any information.
So just a comment quickly first. So I think that is a fair point, and I think it does make it interesting. I think the question to be asked is, who does it make it interesting to? Because this is quite complex. And I did look at it for quite a while. I have some understanding to it, but I still don't fully understand how the back end of the DeFi actually works, right? And I think that's done for a reason. I think there's some complexity to the DeFi aspect of this game. And so I say, who does it actually appeal to? Now, obviously, there's going to be people that like this, and there's going to be people that like to, sit here and strategize and consider the best way to sort of play this. But when you're thinking about a mainstream approach, which I think a lot of my perspective is also from a mainstream approach, I see the complexity as being a bit of an issue. Right.
Yeah, but don't you think it sounds like they have quite a bit to go. Go ahead, Ricky.
But I think, like, just looking at the more you tell me about the project, the more I kind of understand the demographic that would play this. I think the complexity does add to it. I don't think, someone who wants to play Mario Kart or something isn't going to come to this because they just want to, like, sit there, race, and then, just, like, play the game. I think because this game is designed like, text-based strategy, blah, 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 that type of person is more likely to engage in more complicated, practices. They're probably more okay with perhaps playing this PvP risk element. So, yeah, go on.
So that's interesting. And maybe this is a good time to bring this up. I was going to bring this up a bit later. And I've actually got a DM as well from some of the guys from Realm. So shout out to the guys from Realm, which is a project that I'm actually doing next. So I got ASX, aka RotG, and he's saying that the treasure ecosystem is definitely not ready for gamers outside of Web3. And then Moon Bubbles is saying that besides Beacon, there is just no appeal, right? And then, yeah, I see what you say, Skuz, as well about this. And that there's a certain demographic, there's a certain group that this is targeting. In saying that, and that comment about Mario Kart is also very interesting, because what did these guys say? When I scroll up here and I look at this over here, the decentralized Nintendo, now that sends a very clear message to me. Right. And then you've got, what else do you have? Your three big points: games, community, infrastructure. Right. Now, I understand where all these guys that are saying that, it's obviously not game ready and that this is targeting a certain demographic and all this stuff. But I also think that the way that they are marketing themselves and positioning themselves says completely otherwise. Right. And I think that that's a really important factor when you're looking at this project, because this has been around since 2021, it hasn't been around for only 1 or 2 years, right? Well, I guess that is 1 or 2 years, but it hasn't been around for 6 months. This is a project that they've had time to consider what they want to be. Do they want to position themselves as purely a short-term DeFi, short to medium-term DeFi project, or do they want to position themselves as a games company? So for me, it looks like their short-term approach is DeFi, and then their long-term approach, they want to make this a games company, but it doesn't look like they are developing into that side yet. They could, but in its current form, it's not.
So just quickly, Neuron has made a comment in the chat. So he's basically said, with the DeFi aspect, it's not a part of the game that everyone needs to be involved in. It's more an economic incentive for the ecosystem that will allow long-term revenue in some form. So this is an interesting point, because now, I mean, I know we know Neuron, and he played the very initial opening of Bridge World. So he has a bit of experience playing the game. This brings an interesting question, right? Because why would so sure, people can get involved with the DeFi if they want to. That's their opportunity. There's an opportunity there, and that's their prerogative. But what about, and Neuron, this is a question for you, do you think there's going to be a lot of people that are coming for not the economic incentive? Do you think people are actually going to come here and play this type of game? That's where my concern lies with this project. I don't think, if we were to draw a Venn diagram of all the players, everyone's going to be game and economic. I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of people just playing this specifically for the game. And then obviously, I mean, this is, I'm probably a broken record here, but if we don't have those players, then how is this economy going to sustain? Vicious cycle, demand, oversupply, no demand, oversupply, demand. No, you get the point. And eventually this project fails. Now, that's not necessarily because the game is bad, but how do you actually get the non-DeFi participating stakeholders into the game if it's this complicated? That's my concern.
Yeah. But also if there's not really a game to play, right? If there's no real traditional style games that you can access. So you might have the DeFi component locked up, but who's coming in and who are the new people coming in? Is there, I think. And
I guess, Neuron, based on your experience, do you think non-DeFi or even Web3 native people, would they be able to participate in this game simply? Because, like I said, it's not like a Mario Kart. You can't just buy the game, sit down, click play. You can enter a normal race, you can enter a Grand Prix, you can enter a first race with your friends. A very simple UI to get yourself in. I don't here. It seems like there's a lot of reading. You need to learn. It's like a Sid Meier's Civilization. That's not a game for everyone. That's a game for a very specific demographic.
I think I see it. So, I think that's the DeFi aspect of it is definitely key to the whole experience, and probably I see how it can be not a non-appealing game in a way, but then you add some DeFi element to it. And have the staking, battle it out to get better APR in your staking. I can see how that adds value to the project. With what Roden said, I do still think that you need like a smooth experience. Like I know what you mean, Ricky. Like it doesn't have to be like a Mario Kart, but you still have to have like a smooth experience for even playing like the nerdy version of like out competing people. You still like if it's it's fine to be complex strategically, but it should not be like hard to know like what you're supposed to do around the game and where you should be able to whatever, like click, chat, whatever, like which section you should go into the game. That should not be hard. I do agree, like the game could be hard and it makes sense to be hard when you are talking about the strategic element. But I can agree with Roden there where maybe the experience is not good enough at this point. I do like the concept. I think there is something to it. At least they bring something new. They bring this element of DeFi in gaming, and they kind of combine it in a creative way where you will like with staking and stuff. So I do like the concept. Maybe they need more developing the experience of it and develop it more. But I think it's something original. I haven't really seen something that similar yet. So that's kind of like my take so far from what you guys are saying.
I agree. I think it's something unique. It's definitely got a specific target market. For me personally, it's not something that I'm into because I view it as more of a money making scheme rather than an actual game. But I can see how people that enjoy these sort of games, now you've got a real world money risk involved, and it's sort of an exciting game to play where there's a bit more at stake. So that's my opinion on that. I think one question that I did ask is what happens when this game is no longer that profitable, right? What happens when players aren't making that much from this game, or that all the magic is mined up, and what is there still going to be people playing this game? So that's my question, and I'm not sure what the answer to that is.
Okay, so you're concerned about the sustainability, like in the long term of the
correct,
the project.
Especially when
do we know
right now
do we know what the emission schedule is for?
Yeah, we do. I'll get to the tokenomics next. Yeah, so we can go through the tokenomics of Magic. So okay, let me move on. So Realm, I'll just go through the negative of it first. I haven't really put much in, but yet another game that requires over $100 to play, to even access the game. Given my experience with other games, I didn't think it would be wise spending that. So for me personally, I would much rather spend $100 on a game like Harry Potter.
It's more expensive than Harry Potter.
Funnily enough, I actually did buy one of these NFTs, right? Because I did. It was an accident at first, but I did keep the NFT and started playing it because this is by far the best community that I interacted with. They were actually very active. They were willing to discuss topics. I had really good discussions with the guys from Realm. And they were also quite open to admit that this is not ready. It's not a game that they expect people to spend $100 on. This is a game that they are working on. They're playing together almost. So it's a really specific market. And one of the guys actually did say something quite interesting. His name was Max Wave, and he said, this is a game for degens, right? So Treasure is like almost a place that degens can gather together and kind of gamify their degeneracy. And I thought that was a really interesting and honest way to describe what they were doing, right? And I'm not sure if everyone feels that way. I don't think that all of the guys at Treasure and at Realm feel that way, but I think that shows you that this is quite a specific group of individuals that want to access these sort of games. So yeah, with Realm, there is a bit of a game involved in this. Once you get the NFT, basically what you do is you fight and you battle against each other by sort of picking who you want another NFT that you want to battle with, and then you wait for that battle to finish, and then you get a reward for that. Which is doesn't exist yet. It's not actively tradable on any marketplace. It's actually only for in-game use for upgrading your character. And then the second component of the game, which is working at the moment, is that you can go on other people's land which is also an NFT, and you can discover things. So you go on there and it takes you 8 hours. You send out your character, very similar to what I was talking about with Bridge World. You send out your one of your NFTs to go on another one of your NFTs, and it brings you back rewards, right? It discovers things in your land, right? And once again, that reward that you get for doing so is just to upgrade your character, is to transcend your character, is what they call. That's my understanding of my very basic sort of gameplay on the game. I played it for honestly 1 hour and I didn't really like it, so I would have preferred a refund, but that's not how Web3 works. I would much rather. I'm sorry to the Realm guys because they're all great guys, but I would much rather spend $100 on a game that's AAA rated and that I can play for hours and hours on end without having to also buy another land piece and blah blah blah. But once again, this is not. They don't expect people to buy this. In fact, when I was raising some of these points, one of the guys even offered to give me a land piece so that I could use my character with it. I declined that because I don't want to take anything, and I wasn't complaining about spending the money. I was mainly trying to look at this from an outside gamer's perspective. So yeah, that was Realm. At least they had something that I could play and access quite easily once I had the NFT. But once again, $100 as a barrier is a very big barrier of entry to most people. Number 10, Knights of the Ether. I heard good things about this as well, but easy to get to the title page, but all the buildings are closed. So I didn't even know where to start at this point. It didn't even have it didn't even give me an option of buy this NFT and then you can start, because all of the buildings it said specifically, we are closed. Right.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't even need to say anything else, right? That's self-explanatory. Let's move on to tokenomics.
Well, let's wrap up a bit on the games, I think, first. So it's interesting, like if you want, like let's say you are someone who's like, okay, I want to like take a look at this like whole ecosystem, this Treasuredao, whatever. Like let's see some of their games. It seems like you have to spend quite a bit of money if you want to try what they have to offer. And from what you're saying, if you would do that, you would also not be that satisfied with your experiences. You're not. No. If that's your first contact, like what would you say there? Like, let's say this, yeah, like, well, it's your first contact. You're like, okay, Treasuredao, like a lot of people are hyping this up. Okay, let's go try some of their games. Okay, I have to spend this money here. I have to spend this money here. Let's say I spent all this money. I tried all of them. Me as a user, how do I walk away from the experience? Do I want to like go back to the project? Am I left with like, okay, this is a cool thing, I'm happy with my spending, and like I think I will come back in the future? Or it would be more like towards the like, okay, what the fuck is this kind of shit, and this is just not good, and this was not worth like spending all this money on.
Yes, and that was my experience of the games. And look, I know once again, this is targeted at a very specific audience, but I just want everyone to know what these guys position themselves as. The Nintendo, or the decentralized Nintendo is what they call themselves. So they don't call themselves a revolutionary gamifying DeFi experience. They call themselves the decentralized Nintendo. And I think this is a really important point because that's how I'm going to view these games. If I'm a gamer and I see that, bang, I want to go into Bridge World and I want to see what sort of Nintendo style experience or Nintendo inspired experience I'm going to get. Right.
Yeah.
So
that's a very good point. So you're creating the like false expectations for people. And then like when they get in, like, oh wait, there you have to spend money. And then like, this a lot of this project are not even finished, or they're crashing, or it's just, you need to spend even more money after you buy like the initial item. So it seems it's just a bad experience at this point overall.
Yep. So,
but just quickly, if you had to, I mean, I don't want to just completely shit on it. Do we want to, if you, out of the games that you looked, which one do you think has potential that could change your mind? Because let's be honest, I mean, at Gameonomics, particularly me, I've shut on a lot of projects internally, and they've turned around and actually done something and proved me wrong. So it's not impossible for Treasuredao to do the same thing, or perhaps one of these partnered games with Treasuredao. So which ones would you just give us one? Just tell us which one you think has the most.
I've got three. So Kuroro Beast was my favorite. It was a 2-minute short demo, but it reminded me of gameplay from Pokemon, and I really enjoyed playing the demo, right? that's one thing. It also doesn't look like it has that much of a barrier of entry when it's released, although I can't make any comments on that actually. Actually, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I don't know. But to play the demo, I could just play it straight away. It was quite easy, right? The second one was Bridge World. I think there are a lot of components of it which are attractive and interesting, especially if you're within their demographic. But once again, it's only within their demographic. And then the third one is Realm. I think Realm was pretty easy to access once you actually pay for the NFT. It's not as complex as some of the other games. It's a lot straightforward and also fantastic community. I think one of the biggest parts of Treasure, I think their second point was community. And I didn't see any sort of community other than Realm. Now, mind you, I spent most of my time in the Realm Discord because I accidentally bought a fucking $113 NFT. But those interactions, even just asking questions before this stream, there's always someone responding. There's always some sort of discussion, and it's a pretty positive place. So I do like the Realm guys. And as I said, in the game itself is quite good. So those three games I think have potential, but in saying that, they are nowhere near the game experience that I would expect for $100.
But do you see so you see potential maybe, like the DeFi one, if you scroll up, what was the name? Bridge Builder or something?
Bridge World.
Bridge World.
Bridge World.
Okay, so yeah, I think there is potential to this one. I think the concept seems cool, but so yeah, I think it seems like at this point, there's not a lot to see, and probably if someone would engage with the project at this point, would not be that happy, but we maybe see some potential to create some good projects in the future, or some interesting concepts we're seeing here in the future.
My personal ranking would be Kororo Beasts 1, Bridge World 2, Realm 3. Right. But they're all games I wouldn't play, and they're all games you can't really play properly. So I'm not even gonna go there. Okay. So tokenomics. While most games on Treasure, so just firstly, before I get into this, there's a lot of complexity involved in the tokenomics behind Magic. It's actually it's not as straightforward as maybe that I've presented it as. I've tried to look into their white paper and look as much as possible at simplifying this, but there are a lot of complexities to this, right? And as I said, we are not experts in DeFi, we are experts in gaming and games. So let's get into tokenomics. So while most game projects on Treasure have their own native token, they're connected by Magic through the marketplace. So Magic connects all of the NFTs, all of the resources through the marketplace. So players can earn Magic only through participating in Bridge World. And as I said, you need Magic to trade assets. The Treasure ecosystem is governed by Magic holders as well. And yeah, the Magic the Magic emission, which you asked about before, Skuz, mimics Bitcoin's halvening, but it occurs every year as opposed to every 4 years. So the total supply will be 350 million tokens. The design of the Magic staking is also for users who it's designed to benefit people that lock up their tokens for longer periods, which is something that we see in DeFi. It's quite common in DeFi to lock up your tokens. Obviously, that has great advantages for liquidity and also raising funds, especially at the start. And then the team opted for pretty high inflation at the beginning, as you can see from this. And yeah, I've made a comment here. DeFi protocols have almost universally implemented high emissions to help bootstrap a community and liquidity for the start of their DeFi. So yeah, that's this. Here I've cut off. What have I done here? I've cut off some of the points. Basically what it is it's 33% in the Treasure farm, which is a big component of this. As I said, this is more of a DeFi gamified DeFi structure than actually a gaming structure, because it's got a lot in the DeFi Treasure farm. And then you've also got quite a lot in mining, quite a lot in staking, and then you've only really got 25%. 10% for team, 15% ecosystem fund. So you only really got 25% of control amongst the Treasuredao team, which I think is actually quite a big benefit. We don't see this very often with 75% coming from the community. Essentially, that's quite significant. So that's
Sorry, just quickly, Scott's asked a question. It's not really related to Treasuredao, but I think he just wants to get our opinion, and that's completely fine. So Scott's asked, from each member, can we quickly get a quick fire so we don't need to spend too long? Favorite game so far, I'm assuming that's favorite Web3 game, most promising and upcoming, and which one's the biggest flop? Okay, so let's start with perhaps Daniel, since give Ron a bit of a break. Daniel, what are your three there?
Favorite game so far, Illuvium, easily like the one I also engaged with, and I think they're doing great things there. Most promising, up and coming. I did see this MMORPG that I'm quite curious about, like how they put it off, but it's basically this MMORPG. This is more like Asian. Like these guys are more on the aesthetics part. The game looks very good, and it's an already existing gaming company, so maybe they do make a good project. It's called Grand Saga Unlimited. So I'm curious about that one. I just discovered. I will look into it. So that's kind of like promising for me. I'll look into it. And biggest flop, I don't know. I think for me, just like the the whole Floki Valhalla project is amusing in a way. It's just like pure hype, nothing behind it, nothing like promising in the project. Basically, just a scam. So that's kind of my three.
All right, Roden.
Yeah, more specifically, it's my favorite game so far is Illuvium Zero, specifically Zero. I think that's the one I've played the most of out of any Web3 game, so that I'll give it to that. The most promising for me is My Pet Hooligan, which I've done a project overview and article on. I really like the visuals of the game. I like the graphics, and I think the gameplay is also really nice. It's not out yet, mind you, but I think that's one that I'm definitely following very closely. And then the biggest flop for me, Star Atlas. I think them losing a lot of money on FTX with their treasury, and then also them not really doing much in the last few years when it comes to releasing gameplay and releasing tests. Betas and stuff for the community is a really big one. I think maybe I'm also a little bit salty that the NFT that I bought is pretty shit. But yeah, that's my three.
For me, I mean, I don't want to say Illuvium is my favorite, so I'll go. I'll say Gods Unchained is my favorite. It's probably the game that I've played the most. I've got a lot of cards. I probably spent the most money on that one. Most promising up and coming. I'd actually say Illuvium's most promising up and coming. I wouldn't say it's I mean, it's definitely good in its current state, don't get me wrong. I think the overworld was a little bit underwhelming. So that was why I wouldn't say it's currently my favorite game. I would say Illuvium Arena it'd be in between Illuvium Arena and Gods Unchained for me, for favorite. Illuvium most coming, and biggest flop. I'm looking at my Discord of games right now, and there's a lot of flops. I think I'm actually going to go with Big Time. I think Big Time was probably the biggest flop. Just because I don't know. I think it was a little bit underwhelming. It was very repetitive. Very good team. You had Activision team members. So yeah, for me, Big Time. But I think Big Time can make a recovery. But I just think in its current state, it's not very good. Barney also has a question. Do you guys think Web3 games will facilitate the next bull run, or do you think it'll be more gradual growth? Does anyone have an answer to that one? And ASX Bitcoin, sorry, before we go, says Illuvium for their... Okay, so similar to me, and then Phantom Galaxies. Okay.
Yeah, with what Barney asked, I feel like Web3 games facilitating the next bull run. I think it's more the overall crypto gaming industry. I think it's probably going to be more like gradual growth. If I do see something like blowing up and like maybe like facilitating the next bull run could be specifically more like the metaverse stuff, because I think it's a narrative that has not been like fully consumed in a way. It's just like it was too early and like nothing came of it yet. But maybe as more big players in the traditional industry, like again the Facebook, like the Meta, and all of the other like traditional industry, like moves forward and like brings more innovation in the metaverse realm, and maybe some of the crypto projects will be some that can pull it off, then I think specifically metaverses properly done that actually get adoption and utility and value to the user, I think that could be like a catalyst there.
All right, thanks for the question, lads. All right, we'll get back to Roden. So sorry, we just cut you off on tokenomics. So yeah, continue.
That's all right. I mean, that's all I'm going to go through with tokenomics. I think it's quite straightforward with the basic stuff that I presented here. As I said, there's a lot more complexity to this. I think it's important to note that we are not experts in DeFi, so it's hard for me to look in detail and give you guys my opinions on the DeFi side of things. But in terms of the game side of things, it looks very good because of the fact that there's a lot of tokens that are reserved or given to the community.
So just quickly, the reason why I want to go back to tokenomics, I mean, we're not experts, but we do know quite a bit. Okay, so first of all, I have a few issues with this pie chart. So the first one is like, what is the difference between treasure farm, mining, staking, or liquidity? To me, those seem like three things that are just termed differently. Do we have any answer to that?
That's correct. Yeah. So I would say that they're basically the same from what I've read. I could be wrong. I mean, they've obviously separated them, those three, but from what I can see, they're essentially what those three are how the community is going to be extracting magic from Bridge World.
Okay, because it's a little bit weird that we have three effectively of the same thing. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm just a little bit confused why there's so much coming from this. I mean,
I think they've just separated it because they're gamifying DeFi, right? So they've separated it based on different features within Bridge World. That's my understanding.
Because if you look at
they should have more clarification, I think, as well. Yeah, I agree there. It's like, okay, treasure farm, mining, staking, liquidity. Okay, but like, what does each do, and how does each of these sections work? I guess that was not easy to find, Roden.
Yeah, and that was something that wasn't in their white paper when I read about it.
Okay.
So actually, they've got. So, hold on. Let me just very quickly look at.
I mean, I'm just having a look at like the.
They do have a bit of an explanation here, actually.
Okay.
Is it so? Like, I'm just looking at the emission schedule at the bottom. So if you guys just look below the pie chart, you have the schedule of how many tokens get released into the market or to a team or the ecosystem fund. So for those of you who don't know, basically the fund is like the treasury of all crypto projects that'll handle basically all the administrative things. The team, obviously, that goes to the developers. That'll be like their, I guess, equity in the company, if you will. And then staking liquidity, I mean, you have those to emit into the market. Generally, people will put up their tokens in on the platform, and they will receive rewards in the same token. But yeah, like I said, I don't understand what the mining and the treasure farm is. I'm assuming the treasure farm is the tokens that are getting emitted out of, say, Bridge World. But then the mining, it's like, what is that?
I'm pretty sure mining is LP. Mining is LP. That's what I can see from the white paper. But once again, isn't
that like staking liquidity?
Yeah. Essentially, it is. So I'm not sure what the difference between mining and staking liquidity is. Those two seem like the same. Under the definition in the white paper, they are the same.
So mine is staking. Okay. Yeah, look, I don't know. The terminology's off, in my opinion. I think it should be, those are, to me, like those are like three things that Web3 projects would use individually for the purpose. Another interesting thing I want to quickly talk about is do you mind scrolling up for a sec, Rod?
Yep.
So the halving, the total supply. So when you have, something that Gala, I'm going to take a little bit of Gala Games out of this. Something Gala Games had issues with is because they set a certain amount of supply of tokens coming out every year, what they've realized is, particularly in like bear markets, right? When the demand is not there, you're having the ratio of supply to demand is obviously unbalanced. You're going to have, generally speaking, you're going to have a lot more supply coming out than demand. What Gala Games is proposing in 2023, which I think is actually a good mechanism to implement. Now, I don't know technically how this works, but conceptually, basically what happens is the emission will adjust based on the demand. So, in periods like this, where I think we can call it a crypto winter, in periods like this, having an adjusted supply of tokens is actually going to be good for the economy. It's going to provide a little bit more sustainability. If we have too many tokens being released, then obviously we have like a crazy amount of supply, which is just going to inflate inflate the supply of the token, but effectively reduce the price of it. People complain, they leave the project, and generally speaking, most people don't give Web3 projects another chance, which is unfortunate because, there is definitely variance within how people perceive a project. So, for example, if this project, say, was popular, but it released in a bear market and the supply goes up, price dumps, people are just going to be like, fuck this, I'm not playing the game anymore, and leave. So, yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting. And if Treasuredao people are watching, it is something to be aware of because it literally happened to Gala Games. Gala Games uses the exact same emissions schedule. Sorry, not the exact same, but very similar to the Bitcoin halving. And after a couple of years, you can see that their token got absolutely binned and they've had to readjust their strategy. If I was Treasuredao, I'd be doing the same thing. I would be changing that because it is proven to not work. I mean, I could list you a multitude of projects where oversupply is definitely not a good thing for the sustainability of the project.
It's a very good point.
Okay. I want to move on just to make because there is a few more things to go through. So very quickly, adoption and user engagement. Just some information about the platform. So they're built on Ethereum layer 2 network Arbitrum, which is advantageous as basically the advantage of Arbitrum is that you use the ETH technology with lower gas fees, very similar to Immutable X. And yeah, once you've bridged your ETH into Arbitrum, gas fees are basically negligible. So you can make a lot of little transactions, which is going to be quite common amongst some of these gaming projects where you have to do all these little things. So Treasure has seen a lot of hype from the crypto community. So it's been praised for its unique take on gamifying DeFi and connecting metaverse projects together through magic. It's also been praised for providing a platform where developers can bootstrap new projects through communities. And yeah, there's also some advantages to Arbitrum having a lot of good news lately, like surpassing Ethereum in daily transactions and people adopting Arbitrum at a very, very good rate, which is good for Treasure because obviously they're built on Arbitrum, and their value is also going to increase with the value of Arbitrum increasing. So across all their games, Treasure has quite an active Discord, so their user engagement is quite good. And I went into most of the Discords, and there was some good positivity in there. In saying that the Treasure Discord itself, so not the specific games, but just the Treasure Discord was a bit dry and not so active, which was surprising given their reputation as a massive community and whatnot. And yeah, as I said, the individual game projects were quite good, and I've already talked about some of them like Realm, and yeah, while it's hyped up and well received by a lot of people in the space, I noticed that there are barely any videos and content around the platform and the games. So, for example, the biggest one, Bridge World, it has barely anything on YouTube. It doesn't have people talking about the game. It doesn't have people making content about their gameplay. It doesn't have guides. And I think for a game, for a platform which says that community is their number 2 priority, they need to work on what's happening in YouTube and even just general website guides and articles, because I don't see a lot of that happening. And these are supposed to be a game that's been released and that actually works. So I don't really understand why they don't do that, or why don't they don't encourage it, or maybe I just didn't look in the right places. I'm not sure about that. Maybe some people in the chat can give us some direction. In comparison to games like Illuvium, they have significant amounts of content, guides, discussions being produced very regularly, and they don't even have their game fully released. And I think a big part of that is because not only is their Discord active, but they actively encourage people to make content. So they really encourage that and they help people. So as Treasure, one of your biggest things is community at number 2, but number 3, it's also providing the tools for games to be developed, but also for the community. So I would expect you guys to really put a lot of emphasis with content. So that's one thing that I will say about adoption and user engagement. Another final closing comment on that is that even though there's a decent amount of unique active wallets that are accessing Treasure, there isn't really a whole lot of liquidity in their NFT marketplaces. There's a little bit, but there's not a massive amount, and that just makes sense. We're obviously in a bear market. We're in a market where there's a lot of bad stories with game projects. So I do understand that, and we should give them a break on that. But as I said, one of the biggest things for me is, okay, you require $100 NFT. But if I don't like the game, can I sell my NFT? If the answer is no, I'm not even going to buy the NFT. It's as simple as that. Next part, the value proposition. So Treasure's short-term objective has always been gamifying liquidity, right? Gamifying DeFi, which we've gone through briefly. The solution to issues within the DeFi space is to provide game interfaces and features and apply them to DeFi to make it more unique and fun, right? The question that I have on this is, does DeFi need to be game-like and fun? And also a secondary question is, how big is the target audience for this? How big is the demographic for these sort of games, right? And then a third comment on that, or a third question is, even if they are targeting and trying to solve DeFi problems and gamifying DeFi, if it doesn't work properly or if it's not smooth, is it even worth it in the first place? Would I rather go on Curve Finance and conduct my DeFi on a platform where I just click and basically do transactions and it's quite straightforward, or do I go on a gamified version of DeFi, but also lose that smoothness and directness that sometimes people are after when they're going into the DeFi economy? So yeah, those are my comments on that. What were you going to say, Daniel?
Yeah, I think like value proposition here, I think like the DeFi element is actually something that brings, like gamifying DeFi, it's something that makes it more unique and actually gives some actual value, as opposed to, I think this is what they should focus on, or like I think there is potential in this combination between DeFi and games. I think this is one of the values where like crypto can come in and say, okay, we're gonna improve the gaming model by adding finance into it, adding DeFi into it. I think that's a value proposition that you cannot, like, that's one thing that you cannot get in the traditional gaming space, right? Bringing this DeFi element into a game. And I think that's cool. I think that's something promising. And I think if people do that correctly, I think it has quite a bit of potential, but I don't think, like, I think that should be the value proposition, as opposed to be like, oh, just another Steam. I think so many projects are just trying to be a Steam that, like, how are they gonna compete? How are they, like, I think there's going to be a winner in that sense. There's going to be a winner take all. Like if I'm a developer, I'm just going to go to the same platform, to the one platform that the network effects will be very good for me to getting user base, whatever, and there will be one winner there. But if, let's say you want to be a publisher and your focus is like, for example, like DeFi games. I think that can be a better way to position yourself and to get a more competitive advantage in the market. So I think this DeFi/gaming, I think it's a very good idea. I think it has potential. And to your curve analogy, I would see it more like, you have this option of like just stake it and leave it there. Don't bother with it. You get some like decent APR or not so decent, whatever. But you can also get into this ecosystem when you have this game involved where, let's say, whatever, like on Curve, you get like 5% on an asset. But here you can get up to 20% if you're willing to battle it out with other players. So I think that's like a promise here, like some potential. This is more like, that's like stake it and leave it and like forget about it, but this is more like active, like maybe every day. And I think that could be a cool challenge to maximize your APR and like again compete against others who also want to maximize their APR. I think there is something to that. I think there, like if someone can pull it off, like you said, in a smooth way, and I think this concept has some merit here, and it is something that differentiates it. Where like, well, crypto is actually it's actually very good. It's actually usable. It brings utility to the project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think those are some good comments, Daniel. I think it's not something that I would do, but I definitely think there's an audience for this, and I think it is. I agree, it is unique. No one else is gamifying DeFi in this way. So yeah,
I mean, the way Daniel explains that, I would definitely be a target. I'd be part of the target market for this. I think I like for me. I mean, I'm going to use Illuvium Zero as an example here. Illuvium Zero is kind of going to be like that very soon when it does get officially released. Unfortunately, there was a delay, but the thing with Illuvium Zero is I wake up, or I mean, it's not I wake up, I go on the game, I play, I'm effectively farming, I'm getting resources which can be sold for real money. I'm creating liquidity because I'm getting, Kryptons, Hyperions, Solons, and I'm selling that. When the game is officially released, I will be able to sell that on the marketplace. So for me, and I quite like that idea of like, every day I go on for 10 minutes. And I also like the idea that if I want to be efficient, I can come up with a strategy to try and maximize the APR. So like when I go on Curve Finance, I'm going to expect to get, I don't know, let's just say like 3%, right? 3-4%. No matter what I do, I get 3 to 4%. But then you're like, hang on, Skuz, if there is a Curve Gaming Finance where your APR could range from 1 to say 6 or 7 based on the strategy that you employ, there's a bit of a game element to it, I think I would probably gravitate towards that. So I think, like Daniel said, I think the value proposition is there, and I think it's interesting. Is it how...
But they should not be a Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key to it all of this is how are they marketing themselves to the rest of the market? If you, like Roden said multiple times in the project, if you market yourself as Nintendo, I'm expecting a Mario Kart, I'm expecting a Mario Party, I'm expecting something where it's pretty brain dead. I just get in, click in, play with friends, blah, blah, blah. However, if you market yourself as gamifying DeFi, making it very clear from the get-go, I know what the risks are. Generally speaking, it's going to be Web3 natives that are going to be coming into this type of game. I think by now, you'd hope that most people understand that DeFi is somewhat risky. And when I come in and I buy this NFT and I participate in this ecosystem, I know what I'm getting myself into. If you got someone off the street and said, hey, this is Web3 Nintendo, and you make them buy a $100 NFT, that's a big problem because they're probably expecting something different. So I think the crux of it comes down to that. I do like the value proposition of gamifying DeFi. Personally, I think it's extremely difficult to execute. sustainably anyway. I already see holes within the project. Like I said, the token supply emission needs to be changed based on some sort of aggregator that, predicts the demand in a current period. I think that's already a big mistake that they're making. And I think
the game masters have to be very good as well.
Yeah, but to be fair, like Roden did say earlier in the piece, in the team they have an economist. And I don't know how many economists they have, but that is something that I like to see with Web3 gaming projects. You need to have an economist. Developers do not understand the economy. They know how to code, they know how to make a game. They might know how to make an economy. That doesn't mean they know how to manage and run an economy. It's two different things.
Yeah,
I think economists are very undervalued as employees in this current state. And someone who has an economics degree, I'm glad that there is now value to my degree, apart from going into the public sector and trying to help countries or cities or whatever states run their economies. Now we actually have use case for Web3 projects. So so I guess anyway, I'll let Roden do his conclusion.
I have just before we move on, I think one. Like you said, Ricky, there's quite a bit of concern when it comes to implementing it properly. I think another one that I think people don't think about enough, when you involve money in any game or in any project, you have to take into account legislation, and you can have quite a bit of hurdles when it comes to legislation. This kind of sounds like gambling, and you would need probably some regulation. And I think that's also a huge barrier. I think people are not considering, when you throw money at a game, things can get complicated from a legal standpoint. Then you would kind of need to KYC people. Then you kind of have to regulate, apply for a license, and it's just so many extra hurdles that can make this DeFi gaming a bit harder to implement and actually pull off as a project. But I think it is a big hurdle that people don't really think about, because most people don't understand the legislation part, the legal part.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point for sure. Yeah. So I'll just quickly finish this off. Their long-term objective is to be a game studio like Nintendo, and publish and produce tools to bootstrap new gaming projects. I'll get into that in the conclusion, but obviously that's something that I don't see in them. And then another part of it is how do they generate revenue? They take 2.5% from fees of all the items that are sold on the marketplace, right? So that's where their value really comes from. Now, in the conclusion part, I did want to sort of leave out as much sort of my own personal opinion in the up until this point, and in the conclusion, I wanted to go into a bit more of my personal opinion and what I view the project, which we've already sort of discussed. But yeah, I am going to shit on this project because this is I don't agree with the stuff that you guys have said when it comes to that it's interesting to gamify DeFi. Well, look, I did say I agreed before, and I do think it's unique. Don't get me wrong. I think this is a very unique project in that they're trying to gamify DeFi. I don't think that it is sustainable. I don't think that it works, right? Because what happens when you introduce money? There's greed that comes into play, and then there's always going to be someone that loses. And I understand that that's how capitalism works, right? But to gamify that and almost make that into I don't know, like a anime style game or a Pokemon style game, I just don't agree with it. As a gamer,
I don't
it's
like immoral.
That.
Or unethical.
I think it's not. I think I can't really say that, but I think I really don't like it, especially when they say we are Nintendo. I think that part of it really pisses me off. Right? Okay. When you say you were Nintendo, but you're actually a DeFi company, and the whole point is to fucking farm tokens and to compete with one another to see who gets the most APR. I don't like that. That to me is really bullshit, right? And honestly, if I was an employee at one of these projects, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be really embarrassed to say that you are the Nintendo of decentralized Nintendo, the Nintendo of Web3, and your games don't work. Your games, you can't even click through and play your games. That's embarrassing. Like that is I would be really embarrassed to say that I work for one of these companies. And you know what? You guys might have made fucking shitloads of money. I know Magic's been hyped and there's been a lot of interest around it and a lot of money flowing through to you guys. But at the end of the day, we're a gaming review and game overview company at Gameonomics. And for me, it's I can't even play your game. So for me, it's pretty embarrassing. As I said, not a single project was easy to access and actually play. And I was getting stuck at the fucking title page, not inside the game, at the title page, right? Now, I don't care how much money is flowing to you guys. I don't care if you're worth 300 million or 5 billion. If I'm getting stuck at your title page, it's dog shit. It's seriously dog shit. And yeah, sorry for my language, but this is only my opinion, and I am taking it quite seriously because, once again, decentralized Nintendo. We are the Web3 Nintendo. This is what's being marketed to everyday people, right? The only game I got some gameplay out of was Realm, and that's only because I accidentally bought an NFT for $113. Yeah, no, it's fine. You guys can have it. I mean, continue to make your game, right? So Asteroid 187.
You absolutely butchered that name. I don't think that's anywhere near Asteroid.
Fuck, man. Sorry. He asked, have you tried the beacon? That was one of the games where I couldn't get past the title page. I even asked Skuz to try to access it as well. It kept disconnecting our wallet. So I'm not sure if, look, we are we've been using crypto for a while. We're not completely stupid when it comes to cryptos. For us to not be able to even access the title page is a big problem. So I heard the beacon was quite good. I heard great things about it, but I couldn't play it, unfortunately. So I couldn't.
I mean, it wasn't the title page. It was when we clicked play and then it tried to load in, it would disconnect the wallet and refresh the page. I think you even spoke to some people into the Discord to troubleshoot that. Did you? Or
I did, and they basically told me to raise a ticket and go into the beacon Discord, and then I just sort of lost interest after a while because, to be honest, I wanted to try some of the other projects, and I didn't expect that was the first project on the list, and I didn't expect the other ones to be similar. But yeah, that's that. But yeah, so yeah, even with the Realm, the game was so basic and boring that I did ask for a refund and initially listed my NFT, but I decided that there's no refund policy, so I might as well stick it out. And there's also no liquidity on the game. Quite frankly, if we as Gameonomics, as a crew, if we were to review all of these games separately, we would give them very low ratings based on how basic these games were. And I understand that these type of economic strategy and tactical games do have a market. It's actually 25 billion in revenue in 2022, but to be valued at 300 million and claimed to be the Web3 version of Nintendo is so far-fetched and quite frankly a tad deceiving in my opinion. And furthermore, I didn't even finish this. Oh, no, I did. Furthermore, compared to top strategy games, what have I done here? Sorry about this, guys. I also don't like, as I said, I made a comment about the DeFi gamifying aspect of the platform. I don't like it. If the platform and Treasure's main short-term purpose is to create a system to help their users unlock more magic, isn't that an ecosystem that is built from greed? Right. And that might be fine for DeFi, but it's not sustainable for gaming, as we've seen countless times in the gaming space. And yeah, that's my opinion. It might sound a bit harsh, but it's hard for us to. We've seen a lot of bad things that have happened in crypto. So when it comes to marketing and when it comes to people making bold statements about their platforms, I take them very seriously. Especially when they are valued at such high amounts. And personally, I will not be continuing to look at Treasure that much. I might stay close to it in terms of Twitter, but that's just my personal opinion.
It seems like, I think I'm probably going to butcher the name as well, but Estariol. I'm just going to call you
Estariol. Come on.
I mean, Daniel, we haven't been to South America, man. We don't have that accent.
Yeah, that sounds like a South American name. Yeah, sounds like Argentinian.
But yeah, interesting point. I mean, Esther seems to suggest that the Beacon, there was a recent boss event that was fun. So, I mean, I think at the very least we can do is potentially try it out. I think that's the least we can do. I mean, I'm interested.
If we can access it.
Yeah,
sure.
if we can access it. And it says that there has been some issues. So I guess we're not the only people to have problems. But yeah, thanks for the input. If you be interested to hear, it seems like you've been a part of the community a lot longer than we have. So it'd be interesting to see what your opinions are. But like you said, judging pre-alphas is difficult. But I think it's more so. Yeah, I mean, sorry, Artiz, are you finished with your conclusion?
No, yeah, I'm basically finished. Look, as I said, I'm sorry to keep repeating this, but when you make this claim here, where we are the decentralized Nintendo, we're focused on games, we focus on communities, and we focus on infrastructure for the development of these games. In there, do you see one mention of DeFi? Do you see one mention of, farming tokens, of staking, of liquidity, of anything to do with those sort of things? No, you don't. You see magic, right? That's the only mention of something to do with DeFi in there. But for most people, they don't even know what magic is. They might think it's a in-game currency, which it is, right? They might just think it's a tool or currency that you use. There's no mention of DeFi in there. So for me, this platform is around DeFi. It's not around gaming. And Esteroid, he does a very good point, and he says that there aren't any finished games on there, so it's hard to judge. But unfortunately, that's the only thing that I can judge, right? I can only judge what has been produced so far, and for a project that gets all of this hype and gets all this excitement, and it's going to revolutionize Web3. If you can't present a game to me when you've got the play button on there, when there's actually a play button on there, if you can't get the game to me, then I'm going to judge you on that. And I'm sorry if that's ruthless. I'm sorry if that's harsh, but that's just the way I feel.
Maybe that's a bit like, maybe that's just comes across as like inauthentic, as like you still have to pay money or whatever. You still have the option to like buy NFTs and stuff, but I don't know, like I did not go to their page or to the games, but I don't know if you get the message where, this is pre-alpha, the game is not ready, or if you just get a play button and like you get the impression that, okay, this is a finished game that I can play. So
good point. No, you don't get that it's alpha. Like I click on the beacon. The first thing I do is click view game. And then it says collections, leaderboards, activity, and play button, right? And you click into play, and then I can sign in, and it looks like, that the game is ready to go. It's ready to play.
So that part does come across like inauthentic. If they say, okay, it's like a pre-alpha, okay, like you can try it out, or you can try it out for free, give us some feedback. Okay, I'm fine with that. But then if you actually charge me like buy like $100 NFT to even play, and then I see, well, wait, this is pre-alpha, this is not finished, but then you don't write it anywhere there, then that's kind of shit.
Apparently, there is a alpha disclaimer that comes up. I didn't notice it. I even tried again now, but apparently on maybe on just the beacon. Okay. He's talking about the beacon, maybe that that there is some sort of disclaimer, but and I do understand. Look, I understand that in the current Web3 space, it's a lot of bootstrapping, and there's a lot of fundraising for these independent developers through NFT sales and land sales. Excuse me, but to charge the amounts that they do charge, and then not really have anything to show for it when it looks like there's something to show for it. I think it's a great word that you use, Daniel. Inauthentic. I don't want to use any other words.
Misleading, if you want another alternative.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that path, but I think it does look inauthentic. I think it's very inauthentic to do that. And I'm sorry if once again, it's my opinion. I'm sorry if I've shit on this project a bit too much, but it is a project that I see a lot of information on. And I did have a few friends that played this last year, and the way they were talking about the game, it's exactly as I imagined, right? So my perception of the game did not change by doing this research assignment. It was the same perception that I had back then. And immediately when I heard my friends discussing what they were doing and how they were playing the game, I said to myself, it's not something that I'm interested in. It's not something that I believe is actually good. And I still feel that way.
Okay. I think there is some difference between like saying like subjectively you don't like this type of like project, and then but then also it can also still be a good promising project even if you don't personally like it, right?
That's correct.
So,
Yep. I agree with you. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Ricky made a good point where like he could be like you're not obviously, but like he could be a target audience for something like this, but probably in a more like finished, polished version that actually works and has like good mechanics set in place.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I mean, coming from poker, I obviously enjoy playing the game, but at the same time, there is a financial incentive to the game, and obviously there's a part of me that wants to get better from a skill perspective, but there's also a part of me that wants to get better to make more money. I feel like the same kind of mindset would be applied to something like this. If I was to get involved, I would hopefully, one, enjoy the premise of the game at least, so the strategy behind it, much like poker. And then secondly, I would want to try and gain the high. I mean, I'm just going to use the APR example. I'm going to try and gain, if the range is between 1% and 7%, I want to be trying to get, 5, 6, 7%, because it's, for me, that's fun. The idea of trying to be competitive for me is fun. Doesn't need to be a game. I could do anything, and it could, as long as it's competitive, I get enjoyment out of that. Some people don't like competitive things. Some people just like to, play games.
Chop trees.
Like chop trees. Yeah. Shout out to Will. Chop trees. Play Minecraft's another good example of it's not competitive. It's creative, and in fact, I mean, given Minecraft's popularity, there's probably more people that want to play games without the competitive nature than perhaps with the competitive nature. So for me personally, I could see myself getting involved with it. Given the state that it's in currently, I probably would still stay very well clear. I'm not a big fan of, unfortunately, we didn't really get to talk about the utility of the token, which is generally the crux of a lot of issues. If there's not great utility behind the token, then generally the entire ecosystem is a little bit, it's kind of like built on a foundation that's wobbly, So
just quickly on that. So the token basically has three utility, right? 3 points of utility. Number one, it's used as a governance. So if you have one magic staked, that's one vote, right? So you can vote based on the number of magic that you have staked. The second point is that the token is used in game, mainly in the bridge world, to do things, right? And mainly, I believe it's to upgrade, it's to meet characters, it's to claim things. So it's used as like a in-game currency, and then just in bridge world, mind you. And then the third part is that it's used in the marketplace across all of the games as the native token to purchase other NFTs and other pieces of land and other assets from other games. So those are the three points of utility.
So with the purchasing on the marketplace, can you only purchase with magic, or can you purchase with another token? So it has to be magic. Okay, that
has to be magic.
Okay, that's interesting, because something that I'm going to be releasing a video series investigating Gala Games, and one of my big issues with Gala Games is that the Gala token is primary utility is to buy things from the marketplace, but you can actually buy things from the marketplace with ETH. So it's like, why have the Gala token if you can just buy it with ETH, right?
It's a good point.
Now, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. So here with magic.
Stadio said also here depends on the NFTs. Some NFTs are on Trove, devaluated in it denominated, I guess, in Ethereum.
Right. Okay. So so going back to the token issue. So it's good that Treasure uses magic specifically or exclusively for the marketplace transactions, because that provides it more utility. But the other problem...
Sorry, as Steroloid, fuck, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, man.
Just
whatever, man. I'm going to call you Esther. So as Esther said, there's actually a few projects. That's my mistake. They're valued in ETH.
Okay.
So it's not
Yeah.
exclusively in Magic.
Okay. Yeah. So like that's another issue I have is like, I mean, it goes both ways, right? So going back to my original point, if you have things that you can only buy with Magic, it gives the token more utility. Flip side though is it means that you detract people from coming in, because if I have ETH and I now have to swap it to Magic, you're adding like so many steps.
Okay.
I have a hardware wallet, you know. It's not easy to sign things. It takes a while. Like it's annoying. So those are the issues. So there are, you know, yeah, I mean, there's definitely issues with doing it like that, and there's pros for it. Like we're so infant that I don't know what the best way to do it is. But yeah, you just like the value of the utility of the token just doesn't seem like it's there. That's why I don't particularly want to get involved with the game. If it was a game that I was farming ETH, for example, completely different, right? I'd be
That's a very
all
good
over
point,
it.
I think.
I'd be, you know, I can use my ETH basically in any project that's on the Ethereum network. In terms of my conclusion,
So you're saying, sorry, there, like I think in your point there, kind of saying, okay, if a project has me like forces me to like convert to its token to basically interact with it and like marketplace whatever, but it doesn't really give me something in return for that, it just makes it an extra annoyance, then it's maybe not that good. It's not that useful for me as a user.
Yeah, and I don't know whose analogy this is. I watched a video a long time ago, but it's like, imagine going to a supermarket. You have two supermarkets. You have, let's just use Walmart in America as an example. You know, there's a Walmart and then there's crypto Walmart, right? You go into Walmart, you can use your USD. Everyone has USD. I go in, I buy my groceries, whatever. Crypto Walmart, you have to go to Walmart. You have to, you know, I have to exchange my USD into their native currency. I buy the stuff, and then when I leave, I can't use that native currency anywhere else except your store. Now, you need to give me a very good reason to exchange my currency.
Yeah,
now,
that's
a very obvious example for a grocery store would be to have cheaper prices, right? That would be an incentive for me to go there. Now, unfortunately, Web3 projects can't really do that because you're not selling, you know, like an apple on Treasure is not going to be an apple on Illuvium. Well, maybe in the future with, you know, in you know, cross game partnerships, whatever. I mean, that's beside the point. But there is no incentive unless the game is so good that I'm willing to give up my ETH or my Bitcoin or whatever to go to that game and change my, let's just use ETH to Magic. Then okay, sure. Or they use their own blockchain. So they let's say they had their own layer 1 blockchain, and to use that layer 1 blockchain, I needed to have Magic to use it. That would be another good utility case because, you know, if that blockchain is popping off and there's a lot of activity on it, i.e. ETH, then I want to have Magic, but they're not at that. One thing I would say is I think it's good that they do have a layer 2. They're using a layer 2 on ETH. I think a lot of games that are building on other layer 1 blockchains are running a very large risk, particularly things on Solana or Binance Smart Chain. There's a lot of Web3 gaming projects on that. Haven't looked too much into Avalanche and stuff like that, so I can't really make a comment on those blockchains. But I think generally speaking, layer 2 ETH is the way to go, so I would commend Treasure on that. And just to finally conclude on my point, yeah, I think the biggest gripe that I have with this project is not necessarily unfinished games or gamifying DeFi. Don't call yourself Nintendo when you're not trying to be Nintendo. That is not. I think that's bad marketing. That's very deceptive. My idea of Nintendo is, like I said, Mario Kart, Mario Party. I haven't seen any games that resemble that. So don't say you're the decentralized Nintendo. I think that is very deceptive. That would be my biggest gripe. Unfinished games. There's a ton of games that are unfinished in Web3. I'm not gonna sit here and just poke holes at them. I'm an Illuvium Maxi, Illuvium Overworld. Great graphics, great potential, great concept. I played, the alpha. It's not finished. It's not good. It's too much. It's too boring. There's not a lot going on. But I'm not going to sit here because it's in alpha. So I don't want to. I want to apply the same criticism that I do with Illuvium to Treasure. A lot of games are unfinished. I'm not going to poke holes there. I like the idea of gamifying DeFi. That's for me personally. Perhaps it's not really a mainstream market to adapt, but do not call yourself decentralized Nintendo. That's something that I think everyone can agree on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty fair. I'd say, yeah. I think I agree there. It's hard to it's not very fair to judge the games on the current state, but more the overall project, the platform. What is it trying to do? How is it gonna do that? And I think my thing is here. Like I said earlier, if you're trying to be a game publisher, there are so many platforms, crypto platforms that are trying that. I think probably a better route is to be more okay, and we're gonna be the game publisher for DeFi games. And I think DeFi games, and I think this is the one thing I like about this project is kind of this merging between DeFi and gaming. And to be fair, probably I'm pretty sure there are other games and projects that are doing this, gamifying DeFi. We're just not very familiar with them at this point. Like, for example, DeFi Kingdoms sounds like a game that is
Mobox.
Also has DeFi in it.
Mobox is another one that does it.
Okay, so we do have this to different degrees, but they're apparently not marketing it like that. So my question is if they want to be this Nintendo, how? And for this goes for any platform, but also this that wants to be a publisher. How are you gonna attract quality publishers? What's why me as an amazing team? Okay, I'm gonna put this all-star team here with Ricky Roden. Why would we come to your platform to publish your game here and not Gala or others? So I think that's something this is the main product, right? A decentralized platform for publishing. I don't really see why me as a project would come here. That's my thing here. So that's I think it has some promise. I think it has some promise, but there are definitely issues there. Yeah, and I will have to let someone in. So that was my.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think
conclusion.
it was a good discussion, and it's good to be able to discuss some of these projects because it's quite important for us to be able to say our opinions, and to also not be afraid to call people out for things that we don't agree with. And I think that's one of the things that we want to do more of, because I'm not saying that Treasure is immoral or deceiving, but there are a lot of projects in the space that have been that, and it's really important that we are not afraid to call out the ones that potentially are, because at the end of the day, we've seen that crypto is a wild west, and a lot of shit is about money in crypto, and a lot of shit is about extracting value out of a consumer, and we want to focus on games.
Yeah, I like it, and I think it's very good that we brought this project. I think now, I did not know almost anything about it. I heard there is hype around it. So maybe I think a lot of these, this project as well as others, there's just potential, but it's a long way, and there has to be a lot of good execution. So I think that makes it very risky with a lot of these kinds of projects.
And I also want to say, thanks for tuning in, guys. There was a lot of there's actually a lot of discussion in the chat, and there was good interactions with everyone. So we really appreciate it. Check out our XYZ, check out our YouTube. Skuz has been going fucking ham editing videos for the last few weeks. So, and he's been doing a good job there. So check out the videos that we've got, and then the monthly February gaming news in the crypto space will be released at the start of March. So stay tuned for that, guys. Cheers.
Yep. And just quickly, we just have a few comments here that just came in late. I think the premise is that they want to have a global economy so that games can focus on gameplay. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we haven't considered when talking about these types of projects. I think that's a really good point, actually. I think there's a lot of developers who, and this comes back to my economist versus developer discussion earlier, is that some like developers know how to make good games. They don't want to deal with the decentralized finance side of things or tokenomics or whatever. So if Treasure does, say, plug that gap and helps these developers who are purely game focused in integrating blockchain into their game, then that's fantastic. And unfortunately, I just think there are other projects that do that a lot better. The first thing that comes to my mind is Immutable X. And going back to Daniel's point is like, why would Treasure doesn't really have a strong case for developers to come to Treasure, because like there's not really any big games on Treasure at the moment. I mean, Bridgeworld's probably the flagship game, but then it's like when you look at Immutable, they have Gods Unchained, Illuvium, Guild of Guardians that's coming out. They partnered with Tom Bilyeu's NFT project for Project Kaizen. They have so many like big things going on over on Immutable, like publishers or game developers are going to want to go there. And then, Gala Games is another big competitor. Gala Games pretty much has the monopoly on all Web3 gaming influencers, so they have that on their side. They also have connections with Epic Games as well. So like if you're a video publisher, like an indie game developer, you're going to want to go to Gala Games because like, oh shit, I could get my game on Epic Games. So I do like the point. I think that's a great point. I just don't know if Treasure has that pull. But anyway, Mickey need to introduce pokies into Web3, $8 billion in scams. Yeah, I mean, yeah, gambling's a completely different topic, and I'm sure we will cover some gambling projects in the future. I know Daniel's already done a project review on Decentral Games, which is basically a poker Web3 project. So if you want to go read about that, go check out our blog. Unfortunately, I just set this Twitch up, so I don't have any links. Also, we have literally 10 minutes ago, one of Daniel's latest YouTube video just got uploaded, so go check that out. Gamonomics ETH on YouTube. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. We will be doing these ad hoc at the moment. I don't think we have a schedule. Probably
every few weeks,
maybe every 2 weeks, just because it gives us. And we need a bit of time to actually go through the project. Ron's done a fantastic job going through, researching. Yeah. And I know behind the scenes, he actually did a lot of Discording. So he was in and about the community and talking to a lot of people and met some interesting people. So shout out to all the people that helped Roden with their research in Treasuredao. So we'll wrap it up there and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. See you guys.